All right, welcome back. We are back within our Serious Angler podcast, episode number 179. I'm your host, Bailey Egbert, and joined by my buddy here, the captain, Andy Full. What's going on, dude?
It makes me laugh every time. Oh, not a whole lot. Just trying to book some trips. So, yeah.
You had some success today, though, right?
Yeah, I think I booked one, put a deposit in, waiting for 4 other deposits to come in, and then another guy that's going to get back to me for a date. So that's 6 trips so far in my young guiding career. So I'd take that as a valiant success. So I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some interest is better than no interest, right?
It's true.
Some is better than none. Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
It's only up.
How are you?
Good, dude.
Today?
I got some good work in today. I've been designing a website for a company. Can't give you any details on it yet, but we're in the midst of designing his website. Should be something pretty cool that I'll say it's for the kayak realm of things, and that's about as far as I can go into it. So it's going to be pretty cool. We're working with him on it, and it's going really well. Picking up some more clients, potential clients, I should say, on the social media business. But either way, the idea in my first maybe 2 weeks of working for myself, making a schedule, being able to create my own grind is what's kind of nice, and it's working out so far. And just hope I can keep it going. It'll be interesting once we get to those tournament schedules, how I can balance the social media and stuff. And I think what I'm going to try to do is that off season, that time where we're stuck in the winter months right now, where it's blizzard and 15 degrees out, is when I'm going to try to hone in on that website stuff, where I think a lot of people are trying to develop stuff, and then try to focus solely on that social media in the spring and summer, when they have more crunch time for tournaments.
For sure. That's the beauty of being a business owner and working for yourself, is that you can dedicate certain time, and if you're good at it, the world is basically your limit. You can do whatever you want whenever, while having that work-life balance. So kudos, man. That's awesome.
Heck yeah. And, at the same point in time, beggars can't be choosers. I'm going to take whatever I can at this point, with staring at student loans, yelling at me, and about to punch me in the jaw here.
You do have until September now. Got extended, so you have quite a few more months.
I didn't even see that. I should probably go check my student email.
You just have to ask me, because I'm up on all current events.
This is true. So, until September?
Yeah, end of September it's extended to.
Oh, man, we're golden. We are.
Yeah.
All right. I'm thinking I have my own
good news.
Heck yeah, dude. This is already an amazing night. Now we get to talk to Joey. It's gonna be perfect, dude. Oh, dude, I'm sitting here. I have my accounts ready and these monthly plans all laid out to pay off my student loans, and I'm probably gonna still go or roll with it, just so I can get as much out of the way.
It doesn't hurt to pay it down, but I know the new presidential administration is looking at waiving $10,000 off the top too. So
I think I'll just stick with those monthly payments, so that way I can knock as much interest as possible. Just get them out of the way. But
heck yeah.
Enough about financial talk. Either way, that made my night. Now we get to have on Mr. Joey Sabbagha. I believe I pronounced his last name right. He can yell at me in a second when we bring him on. But we're excited to talk to him, because not only he's got an interesting story with level rods, which we're going to talk to him about. And I got to apologize here. I thought he actually worked in the industry, so I'm an idiot. I'm totally mistaken it for that. But he's got a cool story of how he started a rod company with Anthony Gagliardi. So that's going to be pretty cool talking about that. And then his YouTube channel, tournament career, what he wants to do with it. It's going to be pretty cool. But real quick, before we get Joey on here, fantasy fishing. We mentioned it last night on the podcast with Buddy Gross. We went up another 30 or 40 members.
Nice.
So I think we're at like 320 or something like that. So top 3 winners win prize packs from all of our show partners. Be sure, if you guys are playing fantasy fishing, join our group. It's obviously free. I mean, there's always a plus to it. Plus, you can whoop up on people like Andrew and
me and Bailey. Yeah. Because I think last year I picked every worst person I could have picked for every tournament. So
I had an amazing first 75% of the season, and then I bombed the fall. So
yeah, happens.
Yeah. Either way, enough talk about that. We are going to get on Mr. Joey. What is going on, dude?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing?
Good, man.
First
Good
thing
evening.
first, how bad did I butcher your last name?
Oh, you nailed it, baby.
I did? Oh, let's go.
You nailed it.
2 wins tonight. 2 wins, boys.
That's usually the first. It's usually pretty bad. It's anything from Sabbagha to I can't even begin to butcher it as bad as I've heard it.
Oh man, I'm right there with you. I've had it, like playing sports growing up when they announced like people for whatever have you. I've had Egbert, Egbert, like I've had Eggbutt. I think Eggbutt was the worst one I've ever had. That one was royally wrong. But
Well, I have gotten used to it. So usually whatever comes out, I'm like, yep, that's me. I mean, just go with it.
I hear you, man. I feel your pain. But dude, before we go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
I was saying my last name stories, just to jump in here, is people ask me how to spell full, Full, and I'll just be like opposite of empty. I'm like, how the hell do you not know how to spell my last name? It's like,
Has anyone ever said
glasses
your
half
last name
full.
wrong?
What?
Has anyone ever said your last name wrong?
Oh yeah. When I wrestled, we had announcers at Kenmore East, which is a high school by me, pronounce my last name as fall, as if somebody was falling. I was like, how do you get that from full? Like,
I don't know. That must have been just like their U looked like an A, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? It was funny though.
Yeah, that's good. But Joey, before we get too deep into the podcast here tonight, obviously you're new to the show and we're glad to have you on here. But explain to us a little bit about yourself and then also how you got started in fishing in the first place. You know, the first time you caught a bass, who installed the passion in you, the whole 9 yards, man.
Well, I mean, Joey Sabbagha from Prosperity, South Carolina. As far as how I got started in fishing, it's kind of one of them deals to where, of course, my dad had started taking me, and I kind of tagged along with him. He was a big crappie fishing guy back then, and we would troll and drift and everything and catch crappie. So he would take me along, and I kind of grew a love for it. I mean, it just wasn't. I don't know, it just clicked. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. We had ponds and things when I was growing up around in the neighborhoods that we were living in, and I was always getting some tackle, sneaking off through people's yards, going to their ponds and fishing, catching grasshoppers out there for bait, and just doing whatever I could to be fishing. And it's just kind of evolved. I played sports in high school. We played baseball and things, but none of that stuff ever really stuck like fishing did. It's like no matter what I did in life, I've always wanted to be on the water. And so it's always stuck with me as I was growing up. I mean, I can remember catching fish out of storm drains, hand lining a cricket down or something and catching brim, pulling up through the grates and storm drains. And to my first tournament that I fished when I was 17 years old. I can remember the first BFL that I fished. And it's just, I could tell you, my first tournament, I could take you on the water now out here on Lake Murray, and I could show you where I caught my biggest fish and what I caught it on. And that was awesome. I mean, that's years and years ago,
Heck yeah.
You
talk about storm drains, you're going Ike city limits on us now.
I'm telling you, yeah, when we moved up to the Lake Murray area, which is 45 minutes from Columbia, probably, I think I was 7 or so when we moved up here. But there we had a pond in our neighborhood. We were right outside of Columbia down there where we lived, and we had a pond, and there was a storm drain down there. And I'd slip down there and I'd catch grasshoppers, and I had a line and a little hook, and I'd just drop it down through the grate. And I would catch little bitty brim, just something to do, And then we moved up here, and when we moved out here by the lake, it was different because we had family that lived on the lake. So my grandfather lived on the lake, and my uncles lived on the lake. So, there was always access to the water somewhere, whether it was going to an uncle's house that had ponds or a Christmas dinner with the family. We were right on the lake, and we could walk around the bank and fish. So, I mean, it's just something I've done my whole life.
Heck yeah. Being from that South Carolina area, did you get started with saltwater at all growing up? Is that something you ever got into?
Believe it or not, I didn't start saltwater until, other than the random guide trip that we would hire, offshore, I didn't really get into saltwater big probably to about 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
That's when we really started hitting saltwater hard, and I ended up buying a center console. And you know, we go to Charleston and Georgetown, and we'll fish mainly sheephead is what we'll do. Get out there in the jetties and catch them. And it's usually a summertime thing, and it kind of fits because the tournament schedules that we run, you know, we start early in the South. You know, it's January to May, and then after that, it's pretty much dead until the fall. So by the time, you know, your tournaments are over with and you're kind of looking for something to do, you can get out on the ocean and you can catch sheephead, or you can try to catch sharks or whatever you want to do. And there's always a good breeze, so it's not real hot. It's not a long way to get there, and you can just continue fishing and not. It gives you a break away from bass, but you still, you know, get to spend some time on the water.
Right. Those sheepshead eat pretty good too, don't they?
They do. They do. They fry well.
Perfect.
Yeah, I see a bunch of videos of sheepshead, and whenever I go saltwater, it's down in Boca Grande, Florida. So I'm usually just too focused on snook or tarpon or something like that. But I've
never done that. I've never caught snook, never caught tarpon. We got in with a guy that's from the Charleston area, and he kind of showed us the tricks on the sheephead, and ever since then it's hard for us to go do anything else because we can go down and get so many bites. Yeah. And the way we do it, you know, with the center console, we can take a lot of friends or a lot of family with us. We have 4 or 5 of us at the time, and we just go out and have a good time. And everybody's able to catch fish, which makes it, I mean, a really fun thing to do.
Yeah. I've watched a bunch of guys do that. They fish like bridge pilings or dock pilings, basically light tackle, catching those sheepshead, and that's something that looks a lot of fun. And I'm the dummy with 80-pound braid, 40-pound fluoro, and lockdown drag on a kayak, trying to skip swim baits under docks and thinking it's going to go well for snook. It's getting dragged under. Yeah, it doesn't go very well, but it's fun.
We use light tackle for them, so we're set up with 15-pound braid and 12-pound fluorocarbon leader, like a split shot rig, and then just depending on. Usually we're fishing fiddle crabs, and it's just like bass fishing. Really, we're going down the rocks, or if we're fishing docks, we're just basically flipping live crabs up there, and they're just toted off like a bass will.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you mentioned in your introduction of your fishing your first tournament at 17. So kind of walk us through real quick on, obviously your start to kind of like the timeline of where you got to today fishing competitively.
Well, it took when I got in high school. My dad, it didn't take a genius to realize how much I loved to fish. And I was fortunate enough that, he supported me, and he had bought me my first boat was a 16-foot Fisher, but it was set up like a bass boat, an aluminum boat with like a 40 horsepower Mercury on it. And I would go, I'd go to school, and we lived so close to the lake. I'd get out of school, I'd run to the house, hook the boat up, and run to the landing, and I'd, put the boat in and fished. Well, tournament were new to me then. I didn't know a lot about tournaments. And I didn't even know, and it makes it so bad. When I started fishing Lake Murray, it was slammed full of grass. It had Elodea, hydrilla. I mean, it was an amazing fishery. And I had no idea the grass was even there. I mean, no idea at all. But they were having tournaments out of a landing up here, P&L Landing, which unfortunately is closed down now. But they had what they used to call, I remember, that was the Military Bass Anglers Association, the MBAA tournaments. And for whatever reason, me and a buddy of mine, he had his boat, and we said, we're going to jump into this thing. We're going to give it a go. Now, I could consistently catch fish on Murray, but I had no idea what I was about to get into. And so we go down and we enter this tournament, and I'm looking around this, they got all these fancy bass boats and all, and I'm like, well, darn. Back then I wasn't really intimidated. I was like, I'm not really worried about it. So we tear off out of there, and the way I was catching the fish was I was fishing gator grass and willow trees with it was a Zoom finesse worm, weightless, and I throw it on a spinner rod, and I just go down the bank and I throw it at everything. And I really thought I was doing something, because I could go out there and I could catch them pretty good. Mm-hmm. Well, I went out there. It was a one-man tournament. 9.5 pounds is what I caught that day. First tournament, caught a limit, come in and weighed them 9.5 pounds. But I remember seeing guys come by me with the bags, And, back then the bag would like magnify the fish. So guys were walking by me and I would look at the bags and I would it looked like the fish had eyeballs the size of ping pong balls coming by through there. And it was absolutely amazing. And I remember watching these fish coming by me. I'm just watching them go by. I'm like, my goodness. I mean, it's like, 25 pounds would win, you know what I mean? And I'm like thinking to myself, I don't know how these guys are doing this, but I'm going to figure it out. However long it's going to take, I'm going to figure this deal out. And so I started venturing out further and further and further, and then I realized, hey, there's grass. What is this stuff growing on the water? There's grass, and eventually learned how to catch fish out of the grass, but not big fish. And then all of a sudden they put grass carp in the lake and kill all the grass. So it was just kind of, from there, I'd enter a tournament and then I'd enter another tournament. And I basically got my teeth kicked in for years. But every time I did, I learned something. So, that there was a tournament that I had no idea what I was doing. So I'd go out and I'd find fish with a Texas rig worm. I'd be fishing docks in the back of a creek. And we'd get a heavy rain. Well, I never paid attention to conditions. I never paid attention to what it was going to rain, was the wind going to blow, nothing. So I'd catch a few fish on Texas rig worm and I think I'm good to go. And I'd blast off and I'd go back in the creek where I was catching them. And all of a sudden the water was just all muddy. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? So it was just like every time I went, something like that would happen. And I'd get up there and I'd catch like one after that, as to where I'd go get. And the other thing is I was young too. I mean, I would pull into a pocket. If I got I caught them jokers. I mean, they wasn't no shaking them off, man. They were coming in. But every time I learned and learned and learned and learned and learned, and I got to where I could catch them consistently. And then back then it was the Red Man tournament trail. BFLs were the Red Mans. And they were coming to like, I said, well, shoot, I'm gonna jump into this thing one time, And by then I had worked my way into a fiberglass boat, and I fished my first Red Man out here, caught one fish in that Red Man. It took me all day to do it. It's like 2:00, but I caught one. But just kind of kept going with it, persistence. And then the more that I fished, the more I met people around the lake that I'd kind of, start hanging out with them, talking to them a lot more, and I'd start learning, and I'd learn what they did or this guy did, or, and I start learning different techniques. And from there, it just kind of grew to where every time I always want to go to the next level, If I got a little bit of success, I'd kind of want to keep leapfrogging, just to see how far I could go. So, and that has led me to where I am now. So,
heck yeah.
Awesome.
I'm curious, and we've had other folks on from the Carolinas, like a Jake Whitaker. We've had Shane Lineberger on, and it definitely seems like there's something about North and South Carolina where, whether it's speaking to the versatility of the fisheries or just the fact that it seems like there's definitely a condensed population of competitive anglers in the area. What is it about the Carolinas that makes it, one, such a good fishery, but two, why does it pump out so many good anglers year after year?
It's a combination of what you just said. I think you got a lot of competition. There's guys that fish South Carolina and North Carolina that could go easily make a living fishing the Elite Series or the MLF that will never even consider doing it. The competition day to day out here is unreal. It's going to take, right here on Murray, no matter what the conditions are, it's going to take 25 pounds to win. And it's just incredible. But, you got different lakes, and there's so many different variables with the lakes. So you got Heron Lakes, you got Hartwell, Clark Seal, Murray, or Heron Lakes. All three of the lakes have different water clarities, which, Clark's Hill isn't as clear as Murray, and then Hartwell, you can see, you can see good lakes. Well, if you go right up from Hartwell, then you got some lakes like Kiwi, where you can see the bottom. In Jocassee, you can see the bottom in 20 foot. So you got that going for you. But then you got some other rivers or some other fisheries over here that stay the shallow water fisheries. So, they're going to stay dirty, and it's more power fishing type deal. So, and as you're moving around the Carolinas, you got to deal with all these different parameters, and no matter where you go, somebody is going to catch them because, Murray is nowhere even close to Santee, but they're only an hour and 20 minutes apart, but they fish completely different, So as you as you fish over the years here, and then you start venturing into North Carolina, you're going to learn so many different techniques and ways to find fish and what they do here and what they do there, that I think that's what, really, the main reason why the Carolinas pump out such good fishermen.
Yeah.
You just have that overall diversity, so you can take a little bit from each, and each one of those lakes you can apply to somewhere else in the country.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's pretty incredible. Like, I got to go to Kiwi this weekend, and, I'll go there and we'll catch them 70 feet deep on a drop shot and, 8-pound line. And when I come home, I got to peel all that stuff off, and I got to put 20 and 25-pound line on because I'll go to Santee the next weekend. So it's really important to have a good line sponsor if you're living in the Carolinas.
Right. Heck yeah.
Or you can just buy more rods and reels.
You can, but that you get a storage problem there. But you can get set up that way if that's what you want to do.
Right. Yeah, and so speaking back on that versatility of the fisheries, I'm intrigued how that's developed you as an angler. Whereas what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses?
I'm not really going to say that I have a so-called strength. I think I'm versatile enough to where, I don't get intimidated. Going to Kiwi and catching them 70 feet deep, I don't get intimidated with it. And I don't get intimidated going down the Santee and running through the swamp, parafishing, So versatility, I think, would be my strength. It's just, I don't know. Weaknesses, probably more than anything, it's just habits from fishing some of these lakes for so long. You fall into a funk, especially on Lake Murray. Me living right here, I'll fall into habits, and I'll try to. Murray, I'll be running around being spot fishing instead of pattern fishing, is where I would, all the other lakes. But versatility, I think, is going to be my, biggest.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's one thing we talked about on Monday with Buddy Gross was the constant, like, if especially now more than ever with how many guys are out fishing, is the constant need to experiment, right? Trying new things, not falling into like you just mentioned with habits, falling into doing the same thing over and over again, because eventually it's going to run out, where you need to adapt, whether those fish move or they don't, or they just get used to whatever you're used to throwing at them every other Saturday or Sunday of the week. But it's an interesting point. Is just, I think that's what everybody could work on, quite frankly, is just constantly forcing yourself to put something new in your hands or try to get creative with something, whether you believe in it or not, and giving it a wholehearted chance.
Right. Yeah. Well, see, you get stuck into a pattern. And Old Murray, let's see, right, because it's my home lake. I mean, there's spots and there's places that I can go and say, well, I've caught 25 pounds off of this line of docks, or, I've caught them schooling here or schooling there. But the weather's never the same from year to year. You don't know what the bait's going to do. If you get caught up into that, and you go where you caught fish, I mean, yeah, you may caught them in May, and it may be in May, and you go to that same place, but you caught them 2 years ago. You might not get another bite there for the next 2 years. I mean, something's changed, whether it's something with the water, something with the bait. So nothing's ever the same. So if you could just throw all the knowledge that you just kind of throw it out and start fresh, I think it helps on a body of water that you're very familiar with.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a kind of a sidetrack question here about bait. On Lake Murray, do you see big fluctuations in bait fish population? So like 1 year you'll have a lot of schoolers, and then the next year those fish are actually on the bank.
To me, it seems about where the water is and how the weather is out here. Now, one thing about Murray that me personally that I've seen is, it's an herring lake, but we've got threadfin too. I'm not seeing as much herring as I usually see. So, over the last couple of years, there's been a decline, in my opinion, in the herring, and there hasn't been a good schooling bite. There hasn't been a good suspended bite in the fall around the cane piles, and there hadn't been a good, spawning, herring spawn bite going on. Now, I don't know whether I don't know whether it's because there's just not as much bait there. I really don't know, and nobody will. But and it could be pressure too, because Murray years ago, you didn't have boats out there, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all week, all the time. But now you do. So I know those fish get conditioned to seeing boats and people and fishing the same places over and over and over again. I know they do, but as far as that, I see a decline in herring, and there's more thread fin. And from what I've seen about Murray in particular, is the fish are transitioning and getting more into thread fin type patterns. But I mean, you could talk about that stuff forever, because we can go to Lake Wiley and we can go to Norman and you can see a thread fin, like a thread fin spawn, shad spawn. You can't see that on Murray. I've never found a true shad spawn on Murray that I can fish. And I don't know why. I don't understand why we can't find it. We can go anywhere else to find it, but just that never really find it here.
It's interesting.
It is very interesting. Just how close the fisheries are and how diverse they can be. It's I think something similar to that, and you guys feel free to disagree. It's like a California.
Yeah,
I'd say probably the closest thing.
Yeah, I don't know about California.
Yeah. I don't know much about either, so that's why I'm just throwing it out there. But for those listening or watching, if you guys disagree, if you think there's another area that's diverse and as such, let us know. But I feel like that's probably the two most diverse fisheries or regions, I should say, in the country is out west in Cali or the Carolinas. Can maybe give Alabama, maybe.
I think I would throw Alabama in there because they have highland, they have lowland, even like northern Georgia too, like that north. What would that be? Northeast section of Alabama and that Georgia Tennessee border there. That's pretty diverse area.
Okay, that's fair.
And that pumps out a ton of hammers too.
Yeah. So I want to backtrack here quick because one thing we want to talk to you about, Joey, is obviously you talked about your tournament timeline throughout your career, but now you also have a YouTube channel. So I'm curious along that line, when did you kind of get the idea of I want to start this? Why did you start it? And then why today? What's keeping you going? What's the drive to keep doing that?
Well, the YouTube thing was an easy decision for me. I had actually created the channel a while ago, and then I created it and kind of started as, well, I'm going to do something with this, but then I kind of backed off of it. But as you kind of get into fishing the opens and the coasters and things like that, and the entry fees get a lot more expensive, and the travel and all this expensive, you need to be more attractive to sponsors. And you try to feel, me not being a big name and not fishing an elite series or the FLW tour or something like that, it's harder for me to get the recognition and to get exposure, so I've got to figure another avenue to get that done. And YouTube was the answer to that. By starting the YouTube channel, it gives you an avenue to get videos out there, to get your name out there, get subscribers. And what's cool about it now is what I'm seeing. I see the fishing industry is kind of turning towards YouTube as the main marketing that they're doing. So and the reach that it has, and people have asked me that question before. Facebook and Instagram and all your social media platforms, they're all great tools that you can use as far as marketing. But when you post something on Facebook, it's there for a couple of hours and then it's buried up amongst a news feed of 4,000 friends or this or that. So it's just not there. And what I like to tell people is, when I make a YouTube video, when I'm using a Berkeley Fritz side and I'm out here on Lake Murray and, we catch 20 pounds, so to say, or a tournament or whatever, I'll post this on YouTube. Yeah, everybody's going to look at it now. But next February, somebody's going to go on YouTube. They got a club tournament, and they're going to key in February fishing on Lake Murray, and my video is going to be there. And then the next February, and the next February. So every video that you post on YouTube, it's going to continue working for you for the next, few years, or as long as it's there. I kind of look at it as every video that I put on YouTube is kind of like a mini piece of real estate. So You know, it's there. It's always going to be there. Everybody's going to have access to it all the time. And the reach that these videos have on Facebook is amazing. I mean, I don't have a big channel. I'm up to almost 2,200 subscribers now. But in 2020, I had my reach on there, my impressions was like 1.2 million impressions for the YouTube channel. And I did it because I needed to attract sponsors to try to help me financially to run the opens and the coasters and all, because it gets expensive. And if I can go to a sponsor and I can say, look, you know, I got this YouTube channel, 2020, I got 1.2 million impressions on this YouTube channel. That makes me a lot more attractive than just some guy fishing, you know, on the big tours.
Right.
So it's just a way for me to promote myself and try to attract more sponsors.
Yeah. Now, obviously, like you just mentioned, it's promoting yourself. But that being said, too, is you have to create this content, put this content out. Is there kind of a video that you make that or content that you make that you prefer to or enjoy more?
No, you know, my deal, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube before I started actually posting on there. I just like to keep it real. I mean, there's a lot of things on there that you look at and say, oh, well, that's fake and that's staged. And that, you know, that ain't me. I just like to keep it real. If I go out there, I'll make a YouTube video. If I catch one fish and fishing's tough, then I'll make a YouTube video and I catch that one fish and I tell everybody, so look, fishing's tough. I mean, it's really beating, the lake's really beating me up. You know, this is what I'm learning. This is what I'm seeing. And then roll to the next one. You know, I try to film all my tournaments and let people know. It's a little harder on when you fish in tournaments because, you know, when you got a lot invested in the open, you don't want to be fiddle farting around with a GoPro out there all day. You know what I mean? I mean, you want to be out there. You want to be getting it, trying to do well. So it's a little harder doing that. But you know, I'll film all my tournaments and put them on there. And then I'll just go out and casually fish, and I'll change it up too. I'll put a saltwater day in there, or crappie fishing. You know, just whatever to try to get something different on there, so where it's not the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Right. You know,
isn't it kind of interesting when you look maybe in the past 5 years of the shift of, for a lack of a better way of explaining it, the growth of respect for YouTube, not saying just for people on YouTube, but for, you saw this shift with the fishing industry, especially in the tournament scene where, you know, guys didn't want to do the YouTube. They didn't like the YouTube sort of thing. And then now it's almost like if you want to have almost a sponsor agreement, you need to have that YouTube channel. Yeah. It's almost becoming a must.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what makes YouTube amazing to me is high school fishing. When that really kicked in and all the high school anglers started, that's when the YouTube thing kind of took off. And not only that, I think some of these companies are figuring out that they need to be marketing not just to people that follow tournament anglers. I mean, there's people that follow tournament anglers out there, but there's also moms and dads that don't know a lot about fishing, but their son or daughter wants to fish on the high school fishing team. Okay. And no matter what is going on, they're going to go to YouTube for information. You know, if their son or daughter they're going to this lake, they're going to YouTube it and just kind of get a general idea of what the lake looks like or whatever. And what that does for some of these companies, that opens up so many more doors. So now you're not just targeting people that follow tournament fishing. Now you got so many more, a whole nother customer base that you haven't been trying to target, trying to introduce product to. You know, there's a lot of moms and dads that just don't care about fishing tournaments. But their son or daughter just love the fish. And YouTube is now where everybody goes to get their information. I mean, if I want to know a cooking recipe, I'll go to YouTube and look at it. Or how to change a part on a car, or, you know, anything. You know, how to install power poles on the boat. I mean, you can go to YouTube, you can get all the information you need right there. And now with this younger generation coming up, they know that. And that's where everything's funneling to.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. I mean, if I'm going to do anything new that I've never done before, like I'm looking at how to rig up my car this year so when I travel, I can sleep out of my car. First thing I went to was YouTube.
That's right. Yeah. And think about it, there's such a range on there. I mean, if I can go out there and I can make a video, and sometimes, you go out and say, well, I'm going to make a video on throwing a Texas rig worm, how to rig a Texas rig worm. Some people shy away from that. And they say, well, everybody knows how to rig a Texas rig worm. Well, everybody don't. And that's what's cool about it, because you got from beginner to advanced on there. So no matter what you do on YouTube, there's going to be something that somebody can learn from wherever they are on that scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great point. And with that said, too, and we mentioned this with Buddy at one point last night as well, is there's so much information out there, too, is like you said, you have that from beginner to a more experienced to that expert level.
Mm-hmm.
Is in between there, you got to feed through that and realize what's helpful and what's BS. And then
there's a lot of bubble gum.
Yeah. And take what you can and then just go and do it. Like literally just get out there and actually put it to work so you can actually realize what works for you, because you can only learn so much from YouTube videos.
That's right.
While it's a great resource, it doesn't define you as an angler just because you watch how. Yeah.
It doesn't take away from time on the water.
Yeah. Just because you watch Andy Montgomery cast and flip doesn't mean you're going to go out to the water after watching his videos and cast.
Right, but you can learn his setup and then go out on the water and try to apply it yourself.
This is very true. Heck yeah.
But one of my favorite points to that is no matter what you put out there, everybody has their own confidence bait. Like you can go look at all the pictures from every tournament. If it's a flipping tournament, 9 out of 10 guys will probably be flipping a different bait, which is the craziest part to me. It's like literally everybody has a confidence bait. And I think it just comes down to finding that niche that you're comfortable with and what you like. And you're going to get bit if you go in thinking you're going to get bit.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And that's another thing that kind of falls into that category of feeding through the BS. Like if you read those top 10 baits, you gotta kind of take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Well, I've done some of them top 10 articles that I've showed some baits too. I mean, I call it 50-50. I mean, you got.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's all wrong, but it's definitely not all right.
Oh, some of my favorite top 10 like rods and reels will be like a Shakespeare ugly stick is number 1. I'm like, oh, this is garbage. I can't read it.
Well, that's that one thing about YouTube though. It's different. If I tell somebody I'm catching them on something, or if I post I'm catching them on this, and it's like you said, it's 50-50. Well, not. If I go out there on the lake and I pick up a Berkeley sugar crawl and I flip it into some grass or something, and I catch a 5-pounder, and you watch me do it, that's different. I mean, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, it definitely is interesting though. Like watching the old FLW articles where they put top 10 baits from Potomac River, and you see some of the things that guys put on there, and just like, there's no way you were throwing that. Like I was
right.
But at the same point in time, it's like if I know, but it's like if I'm doing well in a tournament and I know I'm going to come back here, why would I tell you what I'm throwing? I mean, if it's already on live, it's like, okay, if you pay attention to live, you'll know what I'm throwing. If not, I'm not going to just give you a freebie. I mean, if I'm coming back there, that's my money I want to make.
I was flipping grass with a Vision 110.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think one, and I don't even know. I never checked the credibility of this, but it was like either last year or 2 years ago, like some college tournament on, I think it was the Harris Chain or Kissimmee, where they had like a spoon or something like that.
Yeah, I can see it happen.
If it's a
I'm not saying it's not. I mean, the shoals and stuff out there, I'm sure they could throw it on, but it was like a big spoon.
It's probably flutter spoon. He's probably throwing a flutter spoon on shell bed or something.
Yeah, so it's definitely possible. But I'm sitting there like, that's almost like the thing as like Jordan Lee's hair jig, but I mean that's obviously true because it was on video.
Yep.
Unless you're throwing like a flutter spoon at like betting fish and going, let's not say, but was it Mike Long on him? I think his name was, the guy from California.
Flutter spoon without the spoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good gosh.
That's too funny. Well,
using this 2-aught hook and ganking on him.
2-aught hook, 40-pound fluorocarbon, and crank away, boy.
Got my Daiwa Saltiga, like perfect.
Bolt flips everything.
Yes. Those poor fish.
Oh man. Totally different topic. completely going off topic here.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's all right. But Joey, I'm curious now, talking about creating a rod company with Anthony Gagliardi, Level Rods. Talk to us about that, because we've gotten in touch with you about it because I was curious about Level Rods in the first place. Is one I've never actually checked out, but we got to talk to you about it briefly. But explain more to us. I know obviously you were at Abu, but talk to us about a little bit about that story.
Well, that deal came along, when Anthony come and he won the Forest Wood Cup. I think it was 2014. We were buddies. Anthony and I had been buddies for a long time. I met him out here on Murray fishing tournaments, and that was one of them deals. And we were kind of, we hung out a good bit and we fished together some. And he got the idea. It was him and Clifford Weedman. They got together with Batson Enterprises, and they wanted to do, a rod company. They really did the legwork on it. My part in it was, Anthony kind of designed everything as far as, it looks. And I was more into the product testing, maybe I guess you call it product development, because we tried different rods out, we like this and we don't like this, and let's do this and let's different things like that. And then we kind of got, we got it up and running, and we went to trade shows and did whatever. And we kind of started trying to build that Level brand from right here in Prosperity out, and then I kind of I took over the pro staff of Level, was kind of trying to put together a pro staff and managing the pro staff. And that's where like I met Chris Howell.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Level guy, and, just kind of kept working with it from there. We would do this, we would have a blank sent to us from Batson Enterprises, and, we had rod wrappers and stuff, and we'd wrap them up and we'd go out and we'd fish with them. And if he liked them, then Anthony would make the decision on whether he wanted to put them in the lineup or not, which is pretty cool, because I met a lot of people in the industry. I met a lot of dealers, talking to dealers about putting the rods in there. And also being from working with pro staff, from being a pro staff manager, I kind of learned how I needed to approach sponsors that for myself, based on how people would approach me for sponsorship. So I would see how people would approach me for sponsorship, and I said, well, I don't like this. I don't like it. This ain't a good, you know what I mean? This ain't a good approach. And I was able to take that and apply it in, on my end, is when I, approach sponsors. But it's a really fun, Level they make a great rod. They really do. Anthony's got a good thing going.
Well, I mean, you can't speak enough about Batson Blinks either. West Coast, they're a great rod company in general, the Blink company. I know Batson because of the rain shadows in the steelhead industry. I'm a big steelhead fisherman, so that's really what they're known for.
They're awesome, man. That's one regret that I have since we started this deal. Anthony has been out to Batson several times. Clifford has been out to Batson several times. That was a trip that I never got to make. And I wish I would have, because like you said, they do steelhead, and Dungeness crab and halibut and everything else that they do out there. Anthony was showing these pictures when he got back, and they did this and this, and it was just absolutely awesome. Darn, I need to get out there, but Washington is a long way from here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pay bills, and I just can't get up and go like that. But yeah, Kerry Batson and them, they're awesome, and they got some great rods. Anthony got some great rods. I made the decision after, 5 years, to switch, and went with Abu, because I got a good relationship with Berkeley and Abu. They kind of put it out there, and I felt like it was the right time for me to make a move. So I took that opportunity, and, I still, if Anthony was calling me with anything, he needed anything, help with Level, anything like that, I would still bend over backwards to do anything for him to help him out. So I still talk to him. I've made so many friends, being a pro staff manager. I talk to these guys constantly. It's a great group of guys. It's a great rod.
Awesome.
Talk to me a little bit about what's your lineup with Abu? Is there a certain kind of series that you rock with, like the Premiers or the Veracities? Because I've dabbled with a few this year as well.
There's not. I don't have that quite figured out yet. I've got some of all, and I don't really know what I can and can't say about what's going on, what rods are dropping.
Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble.
What's dropping for this year? What's not? I don't know. So,
right.
I don't know what I can and can't say on that deal. But I've got Veritas. I've got Veritas, and I've got Fantasistas.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I have right now. I've got winch rods, and I've got a bunch. Matter of fact, I got a bunch coming tomorrow, and I'm still trying to filter through them and figure out which rod is going to be best for what technique that I want to use it for. Right. So until I get everything, and right now with the way COVID everything is, it's kind of hard to get everything all at one time. I know there's some retailers are having a hard time getting stock and all that. Well, it's no different on my end. Right. Brad Rutherford and them, if I need something and I can't get it, fortunately the headquarters, Pure Fishing headquarters is 40 minutes down the road from me. I'm able to call Brad and I can go down there and he'll bend over back and try to help me out with it. But as far as the lineup, right now, I'm liking the Veritas, I'm liking the Fantasistas. I just need to get in there and figure out which models or which actions I'm going to be using for what, because it's a completely different than what I've been doing for the last, 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm dabbling myself this year, and I have a mix of different things. So I've got like Daiwas, some Dobbins, I've got like one Powell, but for the most part, a good number of my rods are the new Veritas PLX series.
Yep.
And then I basically, what I've kind of based on, because being on a budget, being a kid that's kind of constrained when it comes to money wise, I kind of based like my rod purchasing from a Justin Lucas video. I think he did with Wired to Fish.
I watched that video.
Yeah, basically you should spend more money on rods, especially like when you're on a budget, on rods where you're either dragging on the bottom, spinning, or it's something where sensitivity is a crucial aspect. So for me, like my punching rod, dragging a football jig, that sort of deal. Like my obviously drop shot rod, like a spy bait rod, a swim bait rod, like a small swim bait rod. I'm going all Fantasistas for that because that's where I want the most sensitivity. And then for like chatterbait, at least I went with the Daiwa glass just to kind of experiment. Yep. Andrew had talked me into doing that, but like cranking, and then I also I'm trying out a 6'6" spinnerbait rod. Something I've never done. I've never gone that short before, but I was reading articles that KBD had put out about a very short spinnerbait rod. I figured I'd give it a shot, and that's where I'm using the Veritas this year. I'm gonna try that out. Right.
Yeah. But, yeah. I said I got Veritas and Fantasistas. I was fortunate. Nathan Ragsdale, he's been on the show. So when I changed over, I was able to talk to Nathan for a little bit. Nathan kind of give me a general idea of what I needed to kind of start with. So, you got your Veritas. It's like, look, you're going to need your Fantasistas for anything, your dragging and your flipping jigs or anything that you feel that you're going to need that sensitivity. And then, right. Your cranking wise, the winch series, that's what he recommended. And then really for everything else in a broad range, and, cranking or doing anything else, the PLXs.
Yeah.
So, and I've got all of them. I just need to figure out, because the actions are different. I fished with the other rods for so long. I was so used to the actions. I knew exactly what I had. Well, I got to get in here and really hammer down and figure out and learn the actions of everything, so I'll know where to apply each rod to.
Heck yeah. I think it's super interesting with the Veritas series that you have the Veritas, just originals, and then you had the Veritas winch, Veritas Toro,
yep.
And how it kind of there's different little I think it's just different modifications within the blanks that they make to them that are different. But like I have a few of the Veritas winch, and I bought a winch just specifically for fishing a trap, and I'm actually really excited to see how that one performs.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully I've got a good many winches coming tomorrow. I hope. Let's see. I'm kind of chomping at the bit to get them. So
yeah.
I can tell some good things coming. ICAST 21, they got some stuff coming that I think everybody is going to really love.
Heck yeah. Well, we're looking forward to it. Everyone's looking forward to it. But, dude, moving forward a little bit here, what's the goal for you? Do you have a career goal, like whether it's, fishing competitively on the YouTube side, or are you like me where you're happy just being able to fish in the industry and be able to pay the bills? What's the deal?
I just love to fish. I don't have a long-term goal for it. It's one of them deals to where I just like to compete in tournaments and all, and I'm going to compete, this year in the Bass Opens and, I'll fish BFLs as well. And, if things go right and I was to qualify for the Elite Series, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I don't know whether I would pursue that path or not. That's just one of them decisions that I kind of have to make. But is it an ultimate goal of mine to fish Elite Series? No, it isn't. It's just, I just want to compete. That's all. I mean, at whatever level I can fish, I just want to compete.
Fair enough.
Heck yeah, dude. That's awesome. Andy, do you have any more questions for Joey here before we hit him with our last question?
I mean, I think it was a very educational evening for a lot of people too. So for learning kind of about the South Carolina waters. So thank you for coming on. But this last one's a doozy. So I hope you're ready for it.
Oh, well, I can probably beat my way through it. Let's see.
I'm sure you'll be able to beat your way through. It's not that one. It's just the initial shock. And if you haven't, have you listened to any of our shows? Not to throw you on the spot here. You have?
I actually have. Yeah.
So you may or may not know what's coming. So
if you're
depending on which one you've listened to.
Yeah, if you're one of the ones that could deal with us for a long period of time, you probably know what the question is. But I totally don't blame you if you don't, because I would get sick of hearing my voice for 15 minutes after that moment.
I talk to them all day and I get sick of hearing them, so I just ignore them.
But so our last question for you is, if you could sit down and invite 3 different individuals, have a steak, have a beer, and whether they don't have to be a fishing industry, they don't have to be currently alive. They could be alive 1,000 years ago. Doesn't matter. If you could sit down and invite 3 different individuals to pick their brain, who are you going to invite?
And why?
Oh, anyway, got me. Well, as much as I love fishing, I mean, a natural pit is going to be KVD for me. I would like to sit down and have a conversation with KVD, just because I grew up watching KVD fish, bass and stuff on TV with old Bob Cobb and things. He's always been an idol for me and somebody that I've looked up to. That would be one.
Thank you.
Probably the next one would be uncle of mine, Uncle Andrew, that had passed away. I grew up fishing. He had a property that had a bunch of farm ponds on, and that's kind of where we would go up there and just walk the bank and just fish and fish and fish and fish. And I remember we'd catch whatever we could catch, and we would have a fish fry that night, and me and my dad and him would spend the night, and we'd come on back the next day. But that's really where I'd go out there and just fish for hours, and this, now that he's passed, when I started fishing tournaments real heavy, I didn't go up there as much. I didn't get to see him as much, but I wish I could go back and have a steak with him. And number 3, man, I don't know about number 3. That's a tough one. I mean, I just don't want to throw a name out there.
What about what about first person you're going to invite to go fun fishing?
My buddy Ronnie McCoy. At
Nice.
McCoy be fishing on Instagram. If y'all, hey, I'm gonna tell you what, fellas. If y'all down the road you're looking for a guy to talk to, he's a great one. Yeah,
we always appreciate that too.
Yeah. I think I already follow him actually. But I'll have to give him a message, get him on the show. That'd be cool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you have any dirt on him too, if you have any dirt on, we can have you come in halfway through and just throw in a funny story. That'd be a good way to.
I got the
Oh, there you go.
We kind of did that to Justin Lucas a few episodes ago. We brought Bertrand on to razz on him for a minute, and I think it took him completely by surprise. Yeah. So those are kind of fun.
I'll be more than happy to help y'all with
Perfect.
We'll have to set that up. We'll set that up for sure.
Perfect.
But Joey, we're gonna link all of your social medias and your YouTube down below in the description for everybody who's watching right now, listening right now, that's interested. Head down, follow him on those, and check out his YouTube channel as well. Like you mentioned, he puts out some high quality fishing content, so you can head over there. But Joey, before we let go of you tonight, anything else left for the folks?
No, man, Andy Bailey, I appreciate y'all having me on, and hey, y'all check out my YouTube channel. We keep it real on there. It ain't fake. It's all real stuff, man. We just go out there, and y'all don't get on me. If you watch my YouTube channel, everybody picks them because they daggum a lot. Daggum. I can't help it. It's a habit. I can't help it. I'm trying to fix it. Y'all don't, if you go out there and you follow my YouTube channel or whatever, you see that, don't give me such a hard time about it.
See, you said dadgummit, right? Us from like New York, we'll be dropping F-bombs. So
I figured out that F-bombs don't work well on YouTube already.
F-bombs are son of a bitch,
See ya.
Oh, I get so mad when I miss one on Flip and Bite It. There's always son of a bitch, F-bombs. Like, good God. Flutter back in there and get them to bite.
I did figure out how to put the beat. I got the beats figured out, so if it ever happens,
there you go.
I got
it. Fantastic.
Yeah, well, Joey, dude, we really appreciate you taking time out of your night to jump on here. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and we appreciate learning from you, and we definitely look forward to having you on again down the road.
Thank you. I'd be more than happy to come back on.
Heck yeah.
And safe travels and good luck in 2021.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch, and take care, man.
Yep, thank y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Have a good night, Joey. Good dude.
Heck yeah.
I'm always so intrigued to have on the guys from the Carolinas, just because, you just think about the roster that has come out of the Carolinas and the fisheries it has. It's just so intriguing, and it's definitely something I want to go spend a good amount of time on. If for some reason I don't end up moving down there at some point, it's something I really want to spend a lot of time on.
It's kind of funny, though, if you look at like the Elite Series roster, it's like Alabama, Florida, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama,
Yep.
New York, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan,
Yeah.
Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky. It's like, what?
Yeah, no kidding, dude. But it's super interesting, and that's definitely something I want to focus on. But dude, real quick, I want to get your opinion while we're still on the show.
Shoot.
We had, I had brought up when we were talking with Joey about rods, and I had brought up because I read an article of Kevin Van Dam when he's throwing spinner baits of using a 6.6 to a 6.10. Just because that's how he fishes it when he's around cover.
Mm-hmm.
And that the only time for me when I fish a spinner bait is when I'm around cover. What are your thoughts on that? Because it's a 6.6 medium heavy.
Perfect.
It's a mod fast.
Mod fast to fast. I would do that. So that's 6.6. The way I like to fish spinnerbaits, I usually fish it on nothing longer than 7 foot because I like to be able to skip it, make quick, fast, accurate casts. I'm not a person when I fish a spinnerbait that's bombing them. I'm literally fishing to very specific things with it and making my rod do all the work when I fish it. So that shorter rod
accurate
makes you a little more accurate.
Right. That's what I'm really looking forward to. Probably because I paired it up with a 7.3-1, but I it's just something for me. I can't go down below a 6-3 on anything just because I'm so afraid of not being able to catch up to fish.
Yeah, I will not throw anything faster than a 7.3-1 or anything slower than a 6.8-1 for spinnerbait.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I make exceptions for frog rods. I have an 8-1.
I'll tell you, like 90% of my rods reels are 8-1s, but that's because my favorite way to fish is flipping or dragging. So I want something fast. But when I'm frogging, I use an 8-1. Buzz baits, I'll even use an 8-1.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, and the way I look at it too is like I have no problem slowing down my hand motion. I know some guys say they can't do it like physically. I have no problem doing that, and it just reinforces me as a security standpoint of being able to catch up to this fish. Yeah, but I don't know, just a cool little tidbit I thought we'd throw in there because I was curious too. Curious your standpoint. And
Yeah, I mean, I've yet to find the perfect spinnerbait rod. My favorite one that I've had was the first generation Veritas. I think it was either a 6'10" or a 7-foot medium, but it was a fast action. So it kind of acted more like a medium heavy, but it was like a moderate fast. So it loaded perfectly for a spinnerbait. It was a good rod. And that was probably my favorite. And then I broke it boat flipping like a 6-pounder. So
yeah,
6 pound smallie.
I'm excited to try that because I've never thrown I don't think I've ever thrown anything under a 6'10" when it comes to a baitcaster. So that's going to be interesting. See what that does for me for accuracy wise, and see what it does for hookup ratio. I have no idea.
Yeah. So I mean, since I'm still with Douglas, I want to go through and find, because I haven't found that spinnerbait rod I like with them.
I like that 715 that they had.
I think I'm going to get the 684 and see how
That's
that
a good
works.
one too.
Because I throw a lot of lighter spinnerbaits, like 1/4 ounce, 5/16 for the way I like to fish them. So I actually will throw them on the 703, the medium light. That works pretty good for spinnerbaits. For the type of spinnerbait I throw mostly.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Sweet.
So
before we sign up, what's that? Go
what?
ahead. There you go. You're good.
No,
I was going to say, well, before we sign off here for the folks, do you have any left for them?
No. Get a hold of me and book a trip and let's go fishing. Perfect.
Heck yeah. Well, sweet. So yeah, tomorrow I'm going riding solo tomorrow. So Friday's episode will be with myself and Matt Airy. We're gonna get Matt Airy on for Friday's episode. We do not have Monday Night Live figured out just yet, but we are I am talking with Mikey Balls right now about potentially doing a deep cranking episode. If you guys have not seen, he dropped like a 40-pound bag on his video today. Within an hour, deep crank, caught a 13.5-pounder, like ridiculous. But the dude he's very, very confident with deep cranking, and he's very methodical with how he fishes and the way he thinks about things. So I think he'd be a perfect person to come on and do that. Whether that's going to be on Monday Night Live, I'm not sure yet. You guys will know hopefully by Friday's episode. We'll let you know. But on Thursday, actually, we're having on Captain Ron Kelly. He's a Texas fishing guy down there. Ron Kelly, 6 Cents dude. We're going to have him on Thursday night. And that episode will be aired next Wednesday. He's going to be a really good individual to talk to because he's pretty dang smart. And watching his live scope videos, those Texas bass are super interesting. It's kind of like that Patrick Walters deal. So he might be able to key us in on some information on that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
that'll be awesome.
Either way, great episode today with Joey. Huge shout out to him again for coming and taking the time to spend with us here on the show tonight. And we'll see you guys on Friday with Matt Airy.